Kosnick, founding partner of the Vices Group, here with Mark Dermott, one of our President Roundtable facilitators and 40 plus years in the staffing industry of selling and sales management, here to talk about the back half of the big mistakes that staffing companies make in the whole sales process. Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Jump right into it. Tell us, what are these back six mistakes?
Well, and let me start off. These are in no particular order, but they're all important for keeping business, winning business. But the first one I'm going to talk about is the poor transition during an open territory when a salesperson's leaving your organization. I've seen organizations that do little to nothing to make sure that that client understands that their person's leaving and who's going to fill in for that individual. And the person who is filling in, whether it's temporary or permanently, needs to get up to speed on what's happening with the clients that they've inherited. I don't care whether the person resigned that's leaving or they're being terminated. There has to be a plan to make sure that clients aren't surprised that somebody's leaving, and they have to have a plan around how to make sure all that's communicated. So that's number one. The next one is when there is poor documentation over the account history. Sometimes it goes on for years. If you've got a 5-year history with a client, you ought to have 5 years of documented activity that's in your CRM. So anybody who inherits that account, anybody who wants to review the account, it's broken down in your CRM so people can get up to speed on exactly what's happened there. If you want to upset a client, walk into their office and ask them all the things that they think you should already know because you reviewed the information. And it's not a popular thing for salespeople to do because there's no immediate value to them. But this is critical for the retention of the account because somebody will be inheriting that territory at some point and they have to have the history of what's happened. The next one I'm going to talk about is the lack of executive involvement in the top accounts. It's been my experience that those organizations that have the best account retention and even winning business, their executives are very involved in account retention and also presentations and so forth. But as it applies to account retention, if I'm a COO, I want to know who the COO is of our client, or at least appear at the executive level. Same thing with VP of sales. You've got to make the time for this. Not only does it help you keep your pulse on exactly what's happening with that account, if anybody turns over within your organization or the account, the higher up you go in the organization, less likelihood you're going to have as much turnover, and you're going to have much better account stability with the accounts you're working with. The next common sales mistake I'm going to talk about is poor preparation or creation of presentations and proposals. Companies make decisions on millions of dollars of business based on how well you present in your presentations, the content, your platform skills, and also the content and how professional your proposals look. I just see companies don't spend nearly as much time preparing in their presentations, scrutinizing their proposals. They use boilerplate information that may or may not apply to the client. And you've got to take the time to look at your proposal or presentation to say, I'm going after $1 million account. Does it look like $1 million presentation or proposal? Am I putting the right effort? Next one I'm going to talk about, Tom, and I know I've heard you talk about it at meetings also, are business reviews for top accounts. Quarterly business reviews, certainly if there's some of your larger ones. This is a best practice to make sure that on a quarterly basis you're sitting down, preferably. Zoom's a backup, but it's always good to do it face to face. And you're reviewing with your top accounts exactly the business you've done for the last quarter, what you plan to do with them this year. You're reviewing anything new within your organization. You're getting feedback from the client on what they think. You're going over metrics of quality delivery. You can bring in lunch. It's great for relationship building. And if you do this all the time, it's very hard to lose the account because you're on top of everything. You've got that sit down meeting with them and you've got the right people in place. It's a best practice that any good organization has is quarterly business reviews. And the last one I'm going to talk about, and again, we can talk about this one in particular for a good part of the day, is having the right hiring criteria when you're hiring salespeople. I've seen company make panic hires. They have an opening, they find somebody, they're good enough, they place them out there. And you have to have a set of criteria that you're looking at as a screening mechanism to determine if this person that you're talking to has the foundation for potentially being a good salesperson. Doesn't guarantee they will, but at least it gives you a foundation that says, that gives you a higher probability it's a good hire. Things like stable work environment. They've got, is this the right job for them? Does it make sense from a career perspective? Are they currently employed? Do they have a history of success? You got to have something to work off of to make sure that you've got, a person that you're going to take through the interviewing process, that at least you're starting with somebody that has the criteria that could put them, set them up for success. So the right hiring criteria for the right salesperson.
Mark, great. So Mark McDermott, he's one of our facilitators of the President's Roundtable, and also doing some sales audits. So if you are looking for somebody to come in from the outside to do a quick audit on the sales system, and if you haven't watched the first video, that's the first 7 mistakes that we talk about. The back 6 here: 1, the poor transition of account to a new rep when an old one leaves; 2, poor documentation; 3, not enough executive involvement; 4, poor proposal preparation; 5, not doing your quarterly business reviews or doing them poorly; number 6, not having a strong hiring criteria for people. So Mark, great job. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Tons of great information in here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Hopefully it was helpful.